So it's November 21st, 2019. Welcome to Potkaars. So Potkaars is a Dutch word, which really isn't a word, but it's a pot with candle for hope. And these are conversations of hope with, among other topics, whistleblowers. Now, this is going to be a conversation about Reality Winner. And but reality is in prison. So we're talking to Billy Winner Davis, Brittany Winner, and Wendy Meer, and Bailey Lemon, who is my co-author of a book called Book of Courage. So welcome everybody. We're going to do a little round here. So everybody introduce yourselves. Bailey, would you start?
Yeah, hi, I'm Bailey Lemon. I'm a co-author of the Book of Courage, and I've also been following Reality's case pretty much since it became public. And, I feel very strongly supportive of her, and I think she's a stellar human being, and it's a huge honor to be here with Billy and Brittany and Wendy. So thank you so much for joining us, all three of you.
Yeah. So the intent of this conversation is to learn about maybe, for lack of a better word, the case or the situation of Reality Winner. What's going on there, as seen from her family and from her relatives. So Billy, that's your daughter we're talking about. Welcome to the show, and great that you're here. Where are you currently? So this is recorded from the Netherlands, but where are you?
I am in Kingsville, Texas. That's where our family is from, our little family. I've lived here for about 28 years. That's where Reality grew up. I'm still in the home that I raised both of the girls. This is where Reality grew up, so.
All right, so Reality is your daughter, and you have two daughters. The other one's Brittany. So welcome to the show also. So
Hi. Yeah, so we're here to talk about Reality, but I was the original. I'm Brittany. I'm the firstborn.
Okay. So we're talking about your baby sister. How many years are you apart then?
We're only 15 months apart, believe it or not.
Okay, fair enough. And then Wendy, welcome. So what's your story or connection? So online, I've gotten to know you as the fairy godmother. So how
yes,
talk about?
Yes. Well, I got named fairy godmother by Reality, so it's my honor. Basically, because I kind of just showed up. I didn't know Reality before her arrest. I'm a citizen, and I heard about her story, what little bit was out there, and it just rang alarm bells for me. And, Reality just reminded me of my daughter, and I just felt like what was happening to her could happen to any of us. And I didn't know quite how to get involved, but wanted to get involved and do what I could to help raise awareness.
Yeah. So,
and I would just like to add that Wendy was nicknamed the fairy godmother because she is magical. When Reality was in county jail, Wendy made sure that Reality had everything that she needed. Wendy found ways to get her fresh fruit. Wendy found ways to get there to visit with her. And whatever Reality needed, Wendy found a way to get it for her. And that is why she's the fairy godmother.
Thank you, Billy.
Maybe we to start off this thing, and Bailey, just take over, jump in whenever you want to. But for me, the start of this conversation would be, well, you're having a happy family, right? Everybody living in their own place and everybody's doing their job. Reality has got a nice job. And then I'm assuming, so Billy, tell me what happened, but you get a phone call? How does this thing start?
Right. Yes. Prior to this, we had a very average, but a very good life. Both of my girls are very successful. Both of my girls, were living their lives. They had careers and opportunities ahead of them. I was very proud of both of them. I myself was wrapping up a long career in a job that I loved with Child Protective Services. My husband and I were planning for retirement on the horizon. And we were just enjoying knowing that, I mean, our lives were good. And then, yes, a Saturday afternoon, my husband actually received the call. Whenever the kids are in trouble, whenever something bad has happened, they don't call mom, they call Gary, which is my husband and their stepdad, which he's really a father to them. And so they don't call me, they call dad, because dad will make everything okay and dad will know how to break it to mom. So my husband gets the call from an FBI agent there in Augusta, Georgia, who lets him know that he's there with Reality and that they're taking Reality into custody. My husband's able to talk to Reality for just a few minutes before they take her away. So my husband comes in. I was getting ready. We were going to go next door to our neighbor's house to have dinner and play a game of dominoes. And my husband comes in and he lets me know that he's received this call and that Reality's in trouble. We had no idea what was going on because in his conversation, it was very short. They, of course, wouldn't share any details about what was going on. So we wait. And probably about 2 hours later, Reality calls me. And, well, what happened is I kept receiving these calls from Lincoln County, and I kept dismissing them because Lincoln County is actually, bizarrely, where I grew up in Merrill, Wisconsin. And so I kept thinking it was one of my family members, and I kept thinking, I don't want to be on the phone because what if Reality calls? So I kept dismissing these calls. Finally, I accept the call, and here it is. It's a recording. It's from a jail, and I accept it, not really knowing still that it's Reality, but it was Reality. And so she lets me know that they took her to jail, and the sound of her voice, I mean, she's frightened, and she doesn't really know what's going to happen next. So my question to her right away was, do we need to be there? And she said, yes, somebody needs to go. You need to take care of my animals. You need to, take care of my house. She said, it's a mess. They left it a mess. And she's just, she's really frightened at this point. And so I tell her, don't worry, we will take off in the morning. We'll go up there. And so from there, our trip up there, she was calling probably every 2 hours. And again, I could hear the sense of desperation in her voice, the fear, not knowing what's going on. And just, here we have somebody who's never been involved with law enforcement, never been in trouble in her life. And they threw her in this horrific county jail, which we came to know very intimately later. And she's trying to survive and then not knowing what's going to happen next. And I know that we made some mistakes, those first few telephone conversations that we had with her, not realizing that the government was basically going to take every little thing that we said and they were going to hold it against her. So at one point I asked her, I said, Reality, do you know why you're there? Do you know why they arrested you? And she told me, it's my job. And I leaked a document. Well, the prosecution later, indicated that she said documents on that call when she did not. I myself couldn't even recall, because you have to understand that in that moment in time, I'm just in a state of kind of shock as far as I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's going to happen. We just need to get up to Augusta, Georgia. And so there was just this whole whirlwind around that, that I guess that 24, 28 hour period. And then we get up there, we get to her house. The house is, yes, it's torn apart, but I mean, she really doesn't have anything, but like the bed is moved and things are thrown around, and we get there. We got there probably about 4:00 in the morning. We have to clean up some things, get, the bed back to where it needs to be, and then we try to get some rest, because that next day is when she actually had her first hearing, where she showed up in front of the judge.
Sounds like a break-in scene, or no?
It really looked like it. It did look like it. And I mean, she didn't have a lot of things in her house. She had like a sofa, a TV. She had a large stack of books against the wall, and some of those were toppled over and around, and like I just remember the bedroom, just walking in there, and I didn't understand. The bed was moved, everything was out of place, and it was just it looked like a break-in. It looked like, something traumatic had happened there.
So, Brittany, what was your, that's going to be a phone call again, probably. What was your first phone call like then, when mom called, or how did that go?
Well, I got a bunch of phone calls from an unknown number too. And I was on a date that night. Just went to go see Wonder Woman, and I kept getting these phone calls in the middle of the movie. And just like my mom, I looked at the number, and my phone at the time didn't show me where the calls were coming from. So I had no idea. It was just this one phone number just calling me and calling me and calling me. And I just ignored it. And I, when I realized later that she was trying to call me, she was so, desperately trying to talk to me. Because she also comes to me when there's something going on. We've been there for each other, since day one, pretty much. I felt really bad that I had not been there for her when she needed me. So that was kind of rough. And then the first couple of conversations that I had with her over the phone when she was in jail also, like my mom alluded to, we said things that we probably shouldn't have, not really knowing or not knowing the gravity of the situation. Humor is the way that I communicate with my sister. 99% of the time, we're joking about things. We're making light of the situation. That's just how we are. And so that's what we did, is we joked. And like my mom said, the prosecution, or, people looked at that badly, taking everything out of context. And that just kind of added the insult to the injury, is somebody completely outside just trying to nail her for things that we joked about.
Yeah.
So, I'm not aware. The only knowledge I have of American law is what I see on television. So whenever you're interrogated, you're supposed to be read your rights, but that doesn't apply when you call to a family member then, apparently. Or how does that work?
Well, I guess to be fair, when you accept the call, there's a recording that lets you know that it's being recorded and monitored. But I never imagined, the prosecutor in this case was extremely bright. I think they had a whole team. And so what they did was they took things out of context. They distorted them. They didn't lie, but they distorted them, and then they used them against her and against us. Just to give you an example, the very first call that I had with Reality, I remember her saying, I said, "Well, are you okay?" And she's like, "Well, I'm wearing orange." And I said, "Well, I bet you're rocking it." And so the prosecution twists that, and they say it couldn't have been all that bad, or in a conversation with Brittany, I think that, Brittany was, asking her if things were okay. And she said, yes, today they had peas and corn, and peas and corn are dope. So later they used that against her, saying that, well, she's not suffering in jail. Peas and corn are dope. It's just them using things against her, taking it out of context, and not understanding who we are. It's just, yeah.
It had to fit the narrative, right? It had to fit the narrative that they were painting of her, that me outside of the family catches a brief soundbite on the news, and the narrative that was painted was just as Billy and Brittany are saying. It was all very, it was taking conversations and just weaponizing them against this young woman, this young veteran who spent her whole life serving. And, you know, they didn't want her out. They were denying bond because they didn't want America to get to see who Reality Winner really is. And as I got to know her, I realized, as you both have said, I mean, sarcasm, wit, humor, that's how reality gets through things. And, you know, she's brilliant, and brilliant people are like that. They can be very sarcastic, but it was all twisted and turned around. And, you know, it's so interesting because I think what caught my attention most, because really the news didn't cover this much. And it was very, you know, mild what you would hear. I only heard the story, you know, like on one day, I think. I think I only heard about it once, but it caught my attention because it sounded like a narrative. And I think that we'd all been through this election and this campaign, this election, and fake news, and how everything was so polarized. And we were kind of all on high alert, I think, as citizens, because our country didn't really feel like the country that I thought I knew. And it made me start to question. And the story I heard about reality just ate at me. It really did. I just could not let it go. I'm like, this just doesn't sound right. And it was so interesting because it was so difficult to find information. And when you did start digging around, it was all kind of conspiracy theories. I didn't even know what a conspiracy theory was, you know? That's how far removed I have been from all of this. But I think, you know, that was the point, to keep the American people away from getting to know reality, because Reality Winner is an amazing young woman who served her country, but they just twisted that.
So I'm assuming there's two sides of this. So there's getting to know the person, the Reality Winner as a person, and then getting to know what actually took place. Now, knowing her as a person, that for family, that's easy. I mean, you've known her all her life. But when did you realize, when did you learn, so what actually took place? Why are you in jail? How did that go?
Well, the very first hearing that they held on that Monday, it would have been the 5th of June. There was a hearing at, I believe, 2:00 in the afternoon, and my husband and I went. They brought Reality in, and they were extremely vague about what this was about. They just kept saying that there was a complaint against her. There was a complaint that she had mishandled classified information. They didn't say what that information was. They didn't say how she had done it. And when we went to that hearing, we very much expected that Reality would be released. Here we have a person who's never been in trouble with the law, who served her country, who is an upstanding citizen. To us, there was absolutely no reason that she would not be granted bail or bond, you know, a PR bond. There's nothing in her history, in her life, that says that she was going to flee, or that she even had the means to flee. They took her passport. They took all her identification. She was willing to comply with any type of restrictions that they put on her. So that first hearing, my husband and I fully expected that she was going to be released. We could work with her on this, and, you know, things were going to be okay. At that very first hearing, the prosecution came down so hard on her as a person, saying that she couldn't be trusted. They brought up a phone conversation between her and her sister where they were joking about the show Orange is the New Black. And I guess Brittany had asked reality, okay, so who are you going to be? I've never watched the show, so I don't know anything about it. But supposedly reality said, well, I'll be the blonde and I'll cry a lot. And so the prosecution said, that basically, Your Honor, this is a person who is highly manipulative. She can't be trusted. And so they asked to have another bail hearing later that week. And the prosecution also brought up our conversation and said that they believed that there were more documents, because our phone conversation, they were sure that reality said documents. So they needed time to go through everything that they had confiscated from my daughter's house. And they needed to go through her computers, and they needed to go through her cell phone, and they needed to make sure that this was that they were getting everything, because they were sure that she was this evil, terrible traitor to the United States who had stolen secrets and was ready to basically weaponize against the United States and destroy the country with the secrets that she had. And so that day she was not released. We left the courthouse not even knowing what this was about, because the only thing that they kept saying was there's a complaint against her that she's mishandled classified documents. We had no idea what the classified documents were, what this was really about. And so as we were leaving the courtroom, the FBI agent came up to us and basically told us that we could probably expect some media attention. And my question to him was, will this be local? Will this be national? I don't understand. And he said, ma'am, this is coming out of Washington. It will be national. Okay, so we leave the courthouse. We get to our vehicles. Our cell phones are already blowing up. Our cell phones are already going off with unknown numbers. I'm answering calls, and it's reporters from everywhere. Every outlet you can imagine had my number and was calling me, and I had no idea what was going on. And so I would just tell them, I don't know anything, and I would hang up. And so we go back to reality's house, and we don't even know how to operate at this point. We don't even know what's going on. We're just lost. So I tell my husband, okay, the next reporter that calls me, I'm going to find out what's going on.
Ask him.
Yeah. So the next reporter that called me was actually a reporter out of New York, out of CNN. And he starts just asking me questions. I said, no, wait. I'm going to ask you some questions. Yes. Tell me what's going on. And he was like, you don't know what's going on. I said, no, I do not know what's going on. I don't know what she's in jail for. I don't know what they're accusing her of. And he said, ma'am, your daughter leaked a very important document showing Russia's hacking into the election. And my initial reaction to him was, no, you've got the wrong person, because my daughter doesn't work in the Russian field. My daughter works in the Middle Eastern field. She would have nothing to do with Russia in her job. And so, so I just basically said it didn't happen, because there's no way, how could she even have access to that? You would think that an agency like the National Security Agency would know how to section off their material so that, it's a need to know basis, So in my mind at that moment, I basically thought this didn't happen. She didn't do it. There's no way. It took a while for some of this to kind of sink in. That reporter sent me a link so that I could read that document. He sent me the link also to the government's press release, because as we were leaving that courthouse, the prosecution and the Department of Justice released a press release indicating that they had arrested and charged Reality Winner with this crime. So, and that's what the public got to hear. And so for the next 2-3 days, we were just stormed by media outlets. My husband and I, there in Georgia, and I know that at first we told each other, no, we're just not going to get involved in this. We're not going to answer because we might make it worse, or we don't know what's going on. We don't know what to say. Remember, we're from a very lower middle income family, average. We've never had any kind of spotlight on our family, and so we just, this is not our world. Well, it got to the point where we couldn't ignore. I mean, people are knocking at your door and windows all hours of the day and night. They're surrounding your house. We got back from actually visiting the jail where Reality was at, and they stormed our car. And so, it got to the point where there was no way for us to not speak. And then when we saw all the media reporting about Reality, them making fun of her name, them indicating that this was a person who hated her country. This was a person who was a traitor to her country. This was a person who wanted to join the Taliban. There were so many lies about her out there. And so, in that moment, when we were surrounded by media, we made the decision, nobody is speaking for Reality. We needed to be the ones to speak for her at that moment. And so from there on, my husband and I, we talked to whoever wanted to talk to us, because I couldn't handle what I was hearing out there about my daughter. And somebody needed to tell the other side of the story. Somebody needed to defend her out there. And so that's what we did.
If we go, sorry.
I was just going to say, where's the media now, Billy? Where's the media now? Why aren't they storming the car? Why aren't they wanting to know why she's silenced and isn't allowed to speak in the United States of America? Where are they now? They talk about whistleblowers day in and day out, the White House whistleblower, but not Reality Winner.
Certainly. So maybe we get to that in a while. The question I was going to ask is, if we move back to before that first phone call, how would both Billy and Brittany, how would you describe Reality Winner just before all this happened as a person? So just let us get to know her. Who is Reality Winner?
Brittany?
Well, us being so close in age, I mean, she was a thorn in my side when I was young, right? Like at some point I remember, just not wanting to, compete for attention or, space or toys, and I remember, asking my mom, like, why did you have her? Wasn't I enough? But the thing about siblings, as everybody who has a sibling, especially a close sibling, they're really your first friend. They're someone you're kind of stuck with as well. I mean, we'd have our fights like normal kids or normal teens. But we went through a lot together, especially with our dad, who passed away in 2017. We had some, interesting conversations, especially when I moved out of the house to go to college when I was 17. And so that happened in 2008. When I moved out was pretty much, we got that requisite space to where, we could kind of be cool with each other, and we grew up enough to where we could kind of see each other more as friends and sisters. And so we basically just instant messaged each other all day, all the time. Sent each other funny pictures, cat photos, funny videos, news articles. Probably 90% of what we talked about was just jokes, making fun of everything. She has a very irreverent sense of humor. And so there are times when I think she says things that are, kind of over the top, but that's her style of humor, is like people will, say things or make jokes, and then she'll take it a little bit further just for that sort of like effect. And, I could drive with it because I'm kind of like that too. So we kind of had our own like language as sisters. And some of the serious things that we would talk about would have to do with national security or have to do with, aspects of her job. She never told me, anything that she wasn't supposed to or anything like that. But hearing her commentary as, contractor for the NSA or as a linguist or as somebody who served in the military was always very interesting when we talked about current events. And I do recall months before, in the summer, before she was arrested, she was very, very frustrated with what was going on, just in general in the world, especially with, things regarding the US election or activities in Syria. And so she expressed to me a very deep frustration that she wanted to be able to do something about it. And so, honestly, when the full details came out about what happened, the document that she leaked, I can't say that I was very surprised, to be honest, because this was her way of having a chance to do the right thing, what she thought was right, and having the power to do so, and being in a position to actually make a difference and to show people what the government was hiding from us.
If you look back to a few years earlier, before she started her career in the military, so maybe you can elaborate on what she was actually doing so people get to know what her job was before she was arrested. But before she started doing that, would she also have would you hold it against her that she would leak something back then also, or was she changed because of her job and the frustration that came with it?
I'm not sure that. I think she's always been somebody who cares very deeply and who will try to make a difference if she can. The whole reason why she joined the Air Force, or at least one of the reasons is she wanted to make a difference. She wanted to learn the languages associated with, Middle Eastern countries and serve her country, doing so and make a difference in that positive way. I guess she's always wanted to make a difference is kind of just what I would say, in any way that she thought that she could. And so by serving in the Air Force as a linguist, by becoming a contractor with the NSA, that was her way of putting her skills to use, serving her country and making a difference.
And I guess I would describe reality as intense. I think that she's intense about everything. As a child growing up, I would see her really study into things. When she wanted to know about something, she would tear it apart. I mean, she would go in and she would learn as much as she could from every different source about things. And yes, she always wanted to make a difference. She was always, trying to find ways to help those, that were in need. And I know that when she was in the service, she hated what was happening in the Middle East. She hated what was happening in Syria. She talked a lot about the white helmets. I remember one Christmas, we had a Christmas where we weren't allowed to buy each other gifts. What we had to do is we had to donate to our charities. We had to donate to organizations that meant something to us. And so, one of hers was definitely the white helmets. And she talked about, wanting to be there to actually make a difference and to help heal, to help save people.
Yeah, well, she was very, like from what I've read about her, first of all, she seems like the kind of person who has a very clear sense of right and wrong, no matter what she's doing. And, you know, she gets portrayed as, like, you know, the media has called her a traitor. Obviously, prosecutors said the same thing. Traitor, Taliban sympathizer, all of these things. And yet she has this, you know, very clear history of being in the Air Force, right? And serving her country. And it's Farsi that she learned to speak, right? Farsi, Arabic.
Farsi, Dari, and Pashto, the 3 languages.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was very skilled, and she, you know, she was using those skills to do good, trying to use those skills to do good when she was serving in the U.S. military.
And they found a way to weaponize that against her as well. You know, in her home, she had a lot of books, you know, on the Middle East. She immersed herself in the culture. And so they tore that apart, saying that, you know, why was she so interested in, you know, the Taliban? Why was she so interested in the Middle East? Why was she so immersed in that world? You know, and the thing is because that was her job.
That was her job.
That was her job, and she was very good at it. And she aided in you know, taking out hundreds and hundreds of enemies, you know, and protecting us and protecting our troops on the ground because she was so good at her job. But they used that against her. And they even said, we're not saying that Reality Winner is going to join the Taliban. But yes, that's what they were saying, you know, in picking apart everything that they found in her home. But that's because, you know, 5-6 years of her life was being immersed in the Middle Eastern culture so that she could do her job.
And they had to spin it into that narrative, Billy, right? To make it work for them. I mean, that's like, for me as a citizen, that's what we heard, you know, not knowing reality. That's what we heard. And this narrative, you know, Taliban, sympathizer, and they painted these untruths about her, but really, because of the charges, Reality couldn't speak for herself, and the legal team couldn't speak for Reality. And remember, where all this happened was in was in Augusta, Georgia. Apparently they had never had such a case, you know, and the way that things went down and were handled there was just atrocious.
Well,
I just want to add,
yeah.
Sorry, if you don't mind, the whole thing about the books, I'm thinking about this now, you know, a few years later, thinking about what people are interested in, and I'm wondering, wait a minute, what country exactly are we living in? This sounds exactly like, you know, that movie V for Vendetta, where they storm into the guy's house and he's got, you know, like paraphernalia, or he's got like banned things, you know, and they take him away and, you know, kill him or whatever. And this feels very much the same way, that she's being painted as a criminal for not things, you know, not who she is necessarily, but the kind of books that she has. I mean, who doesn't have a book or two that would look kind of weird to the FBI if they decided to ransack your home and go through everything? What kind of picture could they paint of a normal American?
Yeah, or look at your text messages or private conversations with a family member that might be absurd. You know, it just all goes to exactly, I mean, they had a plan for her.
That's right. Yes.
If they can do this to her, they can do it to anybody.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. And it's like they're trying to make an example out of her. Like they've made examples out of previous whistleblowers too, like Chelsea Manning, you know, like Edward Snowden, Tom Drake, like even, you know, Thomas Drake called Reality's case like the signature case under Trump, the signature whistleblower case under Trump. And she was the first big whistleblower case under Trump. And it's like you described, they take everything, anything and everything that they possibly can about her life, about books that she reads, even if it's for her job, part of her job, serving her country, they just take anything that they can and they twist it to try and portray a certain truth about her to the public, to the media, so that people don't. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, Bailey, what really struck me with this is we had just come off this whole election where we were kind of going through and talking about how the campaign was covered and how the election was covered and the fake news and, you know, what the media could have done differently. And here they're doing the exact same thing with Reality Winner. They won't touch her story. They listen to these false narratives, and you can't get them to say her name, yet they talk about how, you know, how much they've learned from covering the 2016 election. It's maddening. It's maddening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did all that stuff also? So let's maybe move, unless there's other stuff, but you can interject at any time. But let's move into the legal proceedings. Did these things get discussed in the courtroom as well?
These things
Yeah.
with
These things,
Yes.
books that were
Yes.
found,
Oh,
recordings
yes.
that were analyzed, and
Yes. And it was in the worst possible way. When we did go that Thursday for the bail hearing, again, my husband and I felt very confident that there's no question they're going to release her on bail. We're ready to put up whatever we have to do, you know, whatever we have to do to show the court or to, you know, get her out, because there was no question in our minds. But they, oh my gosh, you have no idea how they picked apart her life. And for example, the biggest thing that they had was they found, my daughter journaled everything. She would journal how she exercised, she would journal what she did, she would journal good thoughts, bad thoughts, everything. And so we found these journals in her home. Well, the prosecution, the FBI, they confiscated one journal, and because in the corner, Reality had doodled, and she had written, "I want to burn down the White House and move to Kurdistan, haha." Okay, they took that one journal entry, that one little haha joke, and they made her out to be a terrorist in the eyes of this court. I mean, they really did. You know, they brought the fact that, you know, here we have a woman who is skilled in these languages. She has these secrets. She wants to burn down the White House. She wants to move to Kurdistan. They painted this picture of how valuable of an asset she would be to the Taliban, to ISIS, if they wanted to get to this girl. And this girl, you know, they painted the picture that this would be something that Reality was open to. You know, and so for that reason, she was denied bail. She was denied any kind of bail because they made her seem like she was such a threat to our country, that if she was let out of that county jail, that definitely she would, you know, do something horrible to this country. And so she was denied bail. We tried to fight it again, you know, when they discovered that the prosecution had actually lied about our phone conversations and that they had told some other mistruths, you know, her team filed, you know, to say, hey, you know, these things were not true. We need another hearing to decide bail.
So then at some point you learn that she's going to be tried with whatever, but with the espionage act, right? So how did that go? When did you learn that, and what happened there?
Well, we learned that, I don't even know at what point we learned that, but we learned that through the legal team, and then looking it up and figuring out what this meant, what the espionage, I had never even heard of the Espionage Act before this. And so I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what we were looking at. And then throughout this process, we kind of learned through the legal team, what that meant as far as them keeping everything classified and secret. And there was a gag order that was placed on everyone involved in the case, the legal team and my daughter. And so nobody could talk about this case and what was going on. And so they basically, they shut all the doors. They shut all the doors on this so that nobody could know what was going on, what was really happening. And every time that we would have a hearing, we would only get to hear a piece of it. And then they would go to a different courtroom altogether and they would discuss the classified information. And so we really, we were kept in the dark about so many things. And then, with regard to like the Espionage Act and, the classified material, if this case had gone in front of a jury, what the attorneys shared with us was that the jury would never even have been given the information about what document Reality Winner leaked. They would just be told that here we have a person with, top security clearance who leaked a document that did harm to the United States, period. The jury would not know what this document was, how vital it was, how important it was to the United States. There would be no way for Reality to defend herself, as far as why she did it. There's none of that could be included. And so, what she was facing was just that here we have a person with top level security clearance. She leaked a document. It did national harm. And they don't even have to prove national harm.
No, they don't. And that's the thing about the Espionage Act is I'm pretty sure this is an actual part of it. It's not just difficult, but you're not allowed to have a public interest.
There's no public defense.
Yeah.
There's no public defense because you can't say why you did what you did.
Yeah.
The government, they just have it all locked up,
Yep.
and something from this case, just me as a layperson, what I've learned is, our government has to stop charging our citizens under the Espionage Act. If they wanted to charge her with mishandling a classified document, that would be a misdemeanor, and even the most conservative of lawyers that I've seen, I'll say on Twitter, because I'm on Twitter all the time advocating for Reality, they've said that she never should have gotten more than 90 days, if it not just a firing offense for this. We're charging our citizens under the Espionage Act who are trying to do a public service for us and they can't defend themselves. And, the same with the Whistleblower Act. It's not working. And we have to do something. And I hope something good can come from this and that people have become more aware, like me, that knew nothing about any of this.
So how did all this impact Reality then in those first weeks or months through those legal proceedings? How did you choose? What did she say? How did she sleep? How did she change?
Well, may I say something about that, Billy? Reality spent a year and I think 85 days in county lockup. I'm talking about a small rural jail in one room for 23 and a half hours a day for a year and 85 days. Because she wasn't granted a bond. Can you imagine? She was denied proper nutrition. She was denied outside time. She had people coming in and out of that jail that had, mental health issues, that were addicted to drugs. Reality was beaten. She wasn't given proper medical care. It was horrible. She was denied more rights than I can count. And I still don't understand why, a civil rights organization like the ACLU didn't get involved in her case. The Espionage Act it's toxic and it keeps help away, I think. And just from what I've learned, and, she couldn't fight back. Like when she was beaten, she couldn't fight back, because if she did, they would have blamed it on her, and they would have put her in solitary, and it would have been marks against her. Reality was stuck. She was stuck. She was never going to be able to get a trial. If she didn't plea, when were they ever going to let her out of that place? You know what I mean? Like, she was stuck in this county jail where her food was oatmeal, potato chips, and peanut butter. You know what I mean? Like, she was tortured, in my opinion.
So those organizations that you were expecting to come to help you guys, they wouldn't touch it because it's espionage, let's not touch it? Or was it more like, well, you can't get near a person that's going through this process?
I don't know. I mean, they made for instance, the ACLU made a statement about it, that they don't think that, the government should be charging citizens under the Espionage Act. I mean, Reality didn't go to a foreign power. She went to the free press in the United States of America, but I know Billy was denied twice. She asked for help. I don't know all the reasons why. But now, this is, my beef is that Reality's silenced. Why can she not speak out? The Bureau of Prisons will not allow her to be interviewed. They will not allow her to speak. She can't speak about her case, but she should be allowed to speak about the weather. If a journalist wanted to talk to her, where are her rights as an American citizen? And, the Bureau of Prisons is run by the Justice Department. So why have they silenced Reality Winner? Again, because they don't want America to get to know who she is. Because if they did, they'd fall in love with her.
Well, yeah, and then they would be asking, like, why is she in jail right now? And then that would open up a whole other can of worms, and people might start questioning the system more than they already are, and can't have that. In terms of the document that she leaked, so it details attacks from what is believed to be Russian military attacking U.S. voting machines. So she brought this to the public because she thought that this is something that the public should be aware of. Especially, with the 2016 election, all of this talk about Russia and Russian collusion and, Trump winning because he had some help from Russia. And then Reality comes forward and she leaks this document that shows, look, there's something going on here, right? Because it was such a huge debate of people saying, no, there's no collusion, or yes, there's all of this collusion. And then Reality comes forward and she shows people, like, look, there's actually, there's something here. What was it like, I guess? Like, I mean, not that I think this is something that would just go away, but what was it like back then to be listening to the media, listening to all of this talk about, Russian interference in the 2016 election, and then knowing that your daughter, your sister, your friend is in jail, for, at the time, allegedly, like, leaking a document that is proof of what everybody is talking about? What was that like? That must have, I can only imagine, like, how angry that must have, how angry you must have felt and how hurt. Like, I can't imagine.
For me, being her sister, I'm really glad that the truth is out there, but I don't know why it had to be her, right? Couldn't somebody else have stepped up? Couldn't our government have done the right thing by making this information well known, as inconvenient as it would have been for them to say, hey, our citizens were vulnerable. There might have been something going on here, like you alluded to. But the fact that my sister is who she is, and she felt like she didn't have a choice in terms of letting the American people know what the truth is. It's an incredibly brave, heroic, but at the same time, frankly, stupid thing to do if you were thinking about your own self-preservation, right? I mean, my mom has put on a very brave face, but this was a huge, huge upheaval in my family. We were quiet. We were normal. We were average. We were just chugging along, having our normal everyday problems, and then this happens. And I'm simultaneously proud of my sister, but also just really freaking mad sometimes, because why did she have to do this to us, right? But that's what happens when people make sacrifices, and that's what heroes do.
Well, that's a really honest thing that you just shared about, she's obviously a hero. She obviously did the right thing, and you're proud of her, but at the same time, you're mad too.
And Bailey, I mean, if you think about reality, what I've gotten to know about reality, I mean, we're all here together today because of reality, right? Mm-hmm. Reality brings people together. She does that. And even in these dire circumstances, she has a way of bringing good people together, I think. And none of us would be here today if it weren't for her. What she did had an immediate effect. I mean, the EAC warned the states the next day after the release that the infrastructure of the machines, there was a problem. They didn't know. I think reality kind of waited and listened. I mean, that's just my feeling. She waited. She was waiting for someone to come tell the people what had happened, but no one was. And she kept hearing day after day and day after day, and reality's the activist. Reality's the inspiration. She's the one who was willing to come forward. Yeah. And risk everything. But I can't imagine that she thought she was going to get charged under the Espionage Act and not get a bond and be treated like this. I mean, look how we're protecting the whistleblower now. Reality was telling the truth too. She told the truth. She was warning us, but she didn't get any protection. She doesn't get any media. And it's so infuriating because you hear about the heroic efforts of the White House whistleblower, but what I like to call it reality, the election interference whistleblower, where is her help?
Let's do this in two separate steps. I have a question for you, for all three of you. So, what happened to reality must also have changed your view of the legal system in the United States and United States as a country. I mean, is this what we're doing to people that expose something that ought to be in the public domain anyway? So that's when the lawsuit happened and when she was convicted. And then later, so that's the same question, but later on on the timeline, when this new whistleblower story emerges, and the country appears to be taking a completely different approach to that one. So how does that thing again change your view of your country? So who wants to start off on this?
Well, I know that I've said it before. Before this, I viewed my country as good and just. I saw our justice system as fair. I believed that the United States of America, treated people fairly in all systems. And through this, my whole viewpoint has changed. Seeing what they could do to my daughter in the courts, seeing how they could unfairly keep her behind bars, seeing how they could destroy everything that she's done and turn good things that she's done into bad, seeing how they can use this act, the espionage act against her, and then learning, because through this, other people who have, been targets of the espionage have come to me, there's a community that's of people who have experienced this, and hearing that, this has been happening for quite some time. It's totally changed my view of our country. And then just knowing about this document that Reality released, why wasn't this public information? And to me, I keep thinking, if they were hiding this from us, why were they hiding this from us? Why couldn't the American people know the truth that the Russians were interfering in our election through so many different ways, and that they were actually taking active measures to hack into our actual voting software, our voting systems, to change our vote? I don't understand why the American people couldn't know this, so that we could change things. And then I ask myself, what else are they hiding from us? Yeah. Do we even know whether we're living in a democracy anymore? I don't think we are. I don't understand how our government has changed into, it's not we the people, it's them, making decisions for us. That's not the way that our system was supposed to be set up. And so it's really, this whole experience for me has changed the way that I even look at my country. I look at, our government. I don't see that we're living in a free America anymore.
And Billy, the release, why didn't it trigger a crisis in our democracy? Why did it go the other way? Why is our electoral process classified? Why is Reality Winner silenced? Why will not one representative in government say her name? Why will not one candidate running for office say her name? What she released was true. The Mueller report used it on page 51 to indict Russians, 12 Russians. The Senate Intel Committee used it. We know it's real, we know it's true, but yet not one person in government will say Reality Winner is the reason that we know that.
Yes, the frustrations along the way, when the Senate Intel released their findings, and right smack there is basically the document that was released by Reality Winner. And they didn't know that document existed until it was released. But yet no one will protect her. No one will stand up for her.
She's already served too much time. She's already served 2.5 years. Even those, who believe she did wrong and she shouldn't have done it, and, proper channels. Well, there were no proper channels for NSA contractors. There were no channels. But I think people should be more concerned with not how she released it, but what the information was. I get in more Twitter fights over this. It drives me crazy, because now people think they're whistleblower experts, and I know I'm not, but people think they are because of the White House whistleblower went through proper channels and it's gotten protected, but Reality Winner didn't. But Reality Winner isn't a Washington insider. She didn't work at the White House. She was a contractor who had no pathways. She did what she did, but she's already served so much more time than she should have. So even those people who might think she didn't go about it the right way, she should be released today. She has served too much time. And I don't know why there is no one in our government that is speaking up for her when what she released was so very important and we had to know to protect our democracy.
So at a certain point in the legal proceedings, your legal team recommends to make a plea deal. So how did that go? How did you come to a decision on that one?
Well, in December of 2017, I had a meeting with the legal team in Atlanta, and they basically had prepared this entire binder full of information for me, and we went through it page by page. And they really stressed what the Espionage Act meant, and how that really just tied their hands on any legal defense for her. And so they went through all of this, and then basically at that point in time, they indicated that they were in discussions. Of course, it was very informal discussions with the prosecution, that the prosecution was offering a deal of 5 years. But of course, they felt at that point that that was just way too harsh. Reality did not deserve that. And so both, they let me know that they had discussed it with Reality, and that, Reality had, told them that, no, we're not ready to even enter those discussions yet. But they let me know that, the reason why they brought me to the table was because throughout this, Reality always wanted me to be a part of any decision making, because she just felt like she had ruined my life. I retired from my job. I relocated to Georgia. I was separated from my husband, while I, living in a whole different state. I had basically, left my entire life and my entire world and was living there in Georgia. And so she always, wanted me to be a part of everything, because she always felt like, she had done damage to me, and that I needed to be a decision maker in this. And so that meeting, we talked about it, and I said, no, I said, I'm fine, and we're not giving into this. We are not going to give into this. At some point along the way, her team kept filing petitions with the court. The team then introduced that they had the czar of classification. I think his name is Leonard. They had him, and he was going to go in and look at everything. He went to a hearing. It was all classified, so I wasn't allowed in. I had to wait in the hallway the entire day. And so, the team was really, building a defense for her. And then the team, filed some subpoenas that they wanted to use for her case. And these subpoenas that they had submitted to the court were for, people in the 21 states and the agency heads in these 21 states that had been compromised by this threat. Well, the court, they had issued 41 subpoenas, and the judge denied all but one. The judge denied 40 subpoenas. And at that point, the team, again, getting me involved through conference calls and meetings, said, we don't know where to go with this. We're being beaten down by this court. And then somewhere along the way, all of a sudden the prosecution felt like they had the upper hand. And so the prosecution kept, hiring, or what do you want to call it, increasing the amount of time that they would demand that Reality Winner spend in prison. And it got to the point where they were saying, we are seeking the full 10 years. So Reality's team, all of a sudden they're really on the defense and trying to get this 10 years down. And it got to the point where it was just, I just feel like the way that our government handled this and the force that they used, and there were just so many things about the legal proceedings that didn't appear to be right. Like I say, the judge in the case, the magistrate, he would say things in open court, but he would never rule from the bench. Then he would hand down his written ruling a week later, and it would be so in conflict with basically what he had said on the bench. that I knew he wasn't even writing his own rulings. It got to the point where we were thinking that these things were being written from Washington. These things were being written from the top, these rulings, because they never even matched what was going on. You know, you would leave the courtroom and think, we have some hope. And then he would submit his written ruling a week later, and it would just be just so harsh.
If you mean top, if you say top, you mean president, I'm assuming.
Or Jeff Sessions,
the Justice Department,
the Attorney General of the United States,
who wanted to nail Reality Winner to the wall and make an example of her.
Right.
How dare anyone reveal that our election systems were hacked? Oh dear, that needed to be kept a secret.
Right.
Yeah, was it that, like the actual thing in the letter, or was it how dare anyone expose anything?
I guess that's our education, right? That's the education we're getting. I don't know. I just can't believe that more people, it's just, this case was so mired in secrecy. Most people still have never even heard of Reality, and they have no idea she's in prison. And when they do, they're mortified. I'll get, now our grassroots is starting to surge a bit. I mean, we're getting a lot more people, and people are like, what? What happened? And can you send me an article? Can you send me information? And, I'm seeing that more and more and more every day. But up until,
this is going to be, we need to end this thing in a positive note also. That's where the candle kick comes in. But you are talking to Canada and to the Netherlands, and we are fully aware of this story. And so these things are happening as also. So the silencing bit didn't really work. I mean, she's still in jail, so I'm not laughing about that at all. But silencing didn't work, and what you are doing online is working, right?
Thank you. I mean, the silencing has slowed us down, in that we're not getting, we weren't able to get a lot of mainstream media that we could reach a lot of people at one time. But the online grassroots, it is working. I do believe that, but it's also been 2.5 years of Reality suffering, and it's just so wrong on every level. And the fact that she was charged under the Espionage Act, that is, when they came out and said she'd mishandled a classified document, which is a misdemeanor. I mean, and the fact that they wouldn't give her a bond, but they'll let everyone else out on bond, murderers and dangerous people out on bond. Roger Stone got out on bond, and he threatened the judge with crosshairs. You know what I mean? Reality Winner served her country her entire adult life, and she was not allowed a bond. So they've just made her suffer. They wanted to send out a warning to anybody else who might be thinking about blowing the whistle about anything. It's not working. People are coming forward, right? But they've done, a great disservice to this young woman, this young veteran.
Yeah, and her family.
And her family.
And the entire world, really.
Yeah. Right.
So you mentioned the grassroots. I guess something that I really want to know is about just any activism and any, support work that's being done for Reality. And, maybe if you feel like it, you could tell us a little bit about, or I guess maybe to the people who are going to listen to this interview, how they can help, or how they can, where to get more information, and just how can they do their part to support Reality and to fight for her.
Well, we have a website. It's called standwithreality.org. And there's loads of information there. And there's ways to take action on the site as well. There's petition to sign. And we will also be having a petition for clemency soon. And we are looking for people to sign that and support that. We have a letter written on the site that they can just sign, or they can write a letter themselves. We're looking for people to write to the representatives, because we know public pressure works. We know it works. We just need more people to be aware of Reality, her situation, her incarceration, being charged under the archaic Espionage Act. And they can go to standwithreality.org and find out everything about her. And there's a volunteer form there if they would like to help try to spread awareness. We've had some actions in the past. We would like to have more, and we need more people.
So there's elections coming in the United States, and this is a very significant case. I mean, they can downplay it and hide her in the prison as much as they like, but this is one of the it's called the signature case under Trump. So nobody's been given a higher sentence under the Espionage Act than Reality Winner. So those presidential candidates, has anyone made any statement so far?
No.
They act like they don't know who she is. The closest we've come is Bernie Sanders, who has said that he will stop prosecuting American citizens under the Espionage Act if elected in an interview. He was asked about Reality Winner by Ryan Grimm in the interview, and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was there with Bernie. She knew who Reality was, but wouldn't comment. Bernie Sanders basically said he was unfamiliar with her case. I don't know if I believe all that to be true, because that's what we get. I've gone to rallies before, and I've yelled to candidates. I've talked to senators, yelled to them, tried to. They will tell you every single time that they do not know who Reality Winner is. Send me some information.
Yes.
I have never gotten one person in government, candidates running for lower offices for the House of Representatives. We have a lot of, I won't say a lot of support, but we have supporters there. We have candidates who are really trying to help spread awareness, but we haven't gotten one sitting congressperson or senator or candidate for the presidential election say Reality Winner's name. And we storm the Dem debates with hashtags. We do tweet storms. We take action. I just don't understand how they can't know who she is.
I've sent letters to my own representatives and senators that represent me. And the only thing that I get back is form letters, and I get back responses that indicate that, they can't intervene in another branch's business. So they, you get nothing. You just don't
We've
get
gotten
anything.
nothing. We've gotten some actual letters back from, people, supporters will share their letters, but it's just, they won't touch it. And it's crazy. And it's crazy that the candidates won't mention it. I mean, we have a lot of people saying, I'm going to vote for the first person who says they're going to help Reality Winner. I mean, a substantial amount of people are, tweeting that, and we know that, they're very active on Twitter. But
it goes back again to the media silence. I don't understand why media doesn't include her in the narrative. I watch Rachel Maddow, and I watch MSNBC, and I watch CNN, and they are very much aware of Reality Winner and her story and her case. We've gotten very few who have, even said anything about her case. Chris Hayes was one. He did a segment on her and compared her case to Paul Manafort's. The last time with Maria Butina, all of the press and media attention around this Russian spy, which is what she is, which is her job, her being released from prison after 15 months in a minimum security camp environment should have spurred, a comparison about, wait a minute, we have an American veteran who is serving 63 months in maximum security prison. Why aren't we talking about her? Why would we be talking about this Russian spy, who's now a hero to her country? Why is she a hero to her country? Why was she just given a very prominent position in her government, as a reward?
She got a 60 Minutes interview, which is very prestigious to get an interview on 60 Minutes, where Leslie Stahl went into the prison and interviewed her. And, why aren't they fighting to interview Reality Winner?
So one person we didn't really touch upon just yet, maybe should do that in closing. It feels like you're caught between a rock and a hard place. So you have the media on the one end not covering it, like you just described, and then the other bit would be the current president, Trump, who's making a point that the media can't be trusted. So what are you going to do between those two parties?
And he tweeted about Reality.
Right.
Yeah, talk about that then.
Yeah, the day after her sentencing in August of 2018, President Trump, I was in shock. I actually didn't see the tweet because I was on a Democracy Now! Podcast or a news show, and they brought it up. They said, have you seen the president's tweet about your daughter? And I said, no, I had not. Well, so they show me the tweet, and basically he says, ex-NSA contractor, I don't know, did he use her name? No, he didn't use her name, but he said ex-NSA contractor receives 63-month prison sentence, and he says, this is unfair. Come on, Jeff Sessions, this is unfair. And he called her small potatoes, hashtag small potatoes. And so I keep after him, and I have called the White House numerous times. I have written to the White House numerous times to the point where now they've basically sent me a letter saying, stop, you need to go through, the Bureau of Prisons for this and the Department of Justice for this. And I keep tweeting at Donald Trump to make this right. He said it was unfair. He is the one person with one signature can let her out today, can make this right, can at least release her from prison today. I challenge him to do that, to make, it won't make it right because she's already spent more time in prison than she should have, but, no more damage needs to be done to Reality Winner, to our family, to our country in this. And so I challenge him, act on your words. You're the one person who has the sole power and authority to do this and to just do it, So, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. So when is her release date right now? Did she get any time served when she was sentenced?
She did get the time served for when she was in county lockup, which is good. But her official release date is December 30th of 2021. So okay. We're looking at a significant amount of time that she still has left to serve. In the federal prison, sentence, there is no parole. So she can't be released on parole. There is a 15% good time, and that's already factored into her sentence. And so that is the release date. She doesn't qualify for any of the programs that they have available now, this new First Step Act. She doesn't qualify for any of that. She doesn't qualify for a least restrictive environment. She will always be held in maximum security. That is something that as a parent just tears me apart, to know that she is held in the same environment as serial murders and child molesters. That's who they have lumped my daughter in with. You know, she does not deserve this.
So
No.
this has been so long, and these are the hard questions, but what's the prevailing emotion that you would feel? It's like anger, like Brittany said, you there's times where you're angry, or are you proud, or how would you describe that?
I'm very proud of Reality. I'm very proud of everything that she's done in her life. I'm very proud of her strength. Even though she knows that there's nothing that she can do within that prison system to reduce her time, day by day, she still chooses to do the right thing. You know, she still champions for people. She will still tell me about somebody who needs an advocate. She'll still, you know, ask me to send somebody, you know, a nice letter to cheer them up. She still does the right thing. She has no incentive right now within that system to do the right thing, but she does. She chooses to do that every day. And that's who she's always been. I am very proud of her and what she's done. I'm very proud that, yes, she was the one who took the step, who gave us the proof that we needed. I am very proud of that. And I'll stand by her through thick and thin. And I'll always, you know, be proud of who she is.
I'm lost for words. Bailey, you help me here.
You know, I have something to add, you know, as an advocate. I didn't know Reality, but there was somehow I connected with the story. I don't know why, since I've never been involved in anything like this before. And I would say that being involved in this and going through this, it really hurts. I would say that would be my emotion. It hurts because, you know, it hurts to see her suffer. You know, when you know that, I mean, many people suffer out there. This is a very, you know, individual story. This is a particular story. And her suffering is so unnecessary. It doesn't need to be happening this way. And, you know, I think advocating for Reality has taught me, you know, that it's like people ask me, why are you doing this? Because, you know, a lot of times I'm suffering because she's suffering, you know, and it's frustrating and it's hard. But I think like the biggest lesson and inspiration I've learned, and I try to share with other people, is that, you know, if you're not willing to take on like the burden to help, sometimes helping is a burden. But if you're not willing to take on that burden, nothing's ever going to get better. And it's going to hurt to take on that burden, to carry that burden, because, you know, you could go about your life and just be oblivious, or you can be involved and try and help people when you see something that's just such a grave injustice. And there's just something inside you that's burning that says, I have to help. I have to help this person. I have to, and this isn't just a cause. You know, you can remove yourself just a little bit from a cause. This is a young woman. This is a person, a human being who risked everything to help her country, and look how she's being treated. So it hurts.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Bailey, are you okay with any last questions or things that you want to put in here?
See, I'm a little bit
Putting you on the spot.
I don't know, like, is there any closing remarks or anything that any of you want to say to the people listening to this later, or even to like the powerful people out there who aren't saying anything about Reality, who are pretending to not know who she is? Because I mean,
that's so
Yeah.
that takes all the energy out of you. You know, they know this dossier, they know this file. So then pretending not to know, that makes me angry.
And I think, you know, for me, my last words would be that, like, the injustices done to her, the cruelty the way that she has been treated all the way through, it's unbelievable that there's no one in our government speaking out for her and trying to help her. And, I think so that would be, to our representatives. I'm very, very disappointed, and I hope all of you lose your seats. But, to my fellow American people, I would say that, this could be your family member. I felt this connection that this could be my daughter. That brought me to the table, but the injustice done to her and then getting to know her will always keep me in this fight. So don't stay on the outside of things. This country needs all of us we're so divided right now. We need to come together. Reality did what was right, and she needs our help. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Wendy. Brittany, do you have anything you want to say before we finish this off?
Well, I'm, as I've mentioned before, I'm relatively young. I'm 29. So I'm a millennial, and not very far off from, say, like the generation, Z people. What I would want to say is it feels sometimes like these issues are really far away because, there's not a lot of us, millennials or younger generations currently running for office. There are a few, but it can still feel like this world is being run by people who are older or more mature or more established. Of course, there's the feeling, because they're essentially our parents or people the same age as our parents, that they know what they're doing and that they know what's best for us and what's best for the world. And let me just point out that it's kind of a shit show, if I may use that term on your show. So it's time for us also as a generation. It's time for people like us to kind of rise up and say, we're not going to put up with this anymore, which is exactly what Reality did, what she tried to do. And look what they did to her as a result. So they've silenced one young, brave, stupid millennial. They can't get all of us. So especially if we raise our voices on Twitter, on social media, just letting people that we know in our daily lives know about what's going on. Just refuse to be silenced. Start being Reality's voice. Start expressing your own voice and your own thoughts, no matter what country you're in, no matter what you do for a living. I mean, you've got thoughts, you've got opinions, and hopefully we've convinced you that Reality Winner is an American patriot who doesn't deserve to be in prison, who doesn't deserve what the United States government has done to her for telling the truth. And so if you could tell one or two other people in your immediate family or your friends or on your Twitter feed, or, for goodness sakes, make a TikTok video, expressing your support for Free Reality Winner. And check out the website that was mentioned by Wendy. Refuse to have your voice taken away from you like Reality's was taken away from her.
All right. With that, Billy Winner Davis, Brittany Winner, and Wendy Meer, thank you for telling this story. Bailey, last thing? No?
Oh, I was just going to say, Billy, do you have any closing remarks?
I'm grateful to everyone who supports and advocates for my daughter, Reality Winner. I'm grateful for the voices out there. It's been a very painful journey, but it's also been an enlightening one for me. I know that, people need to be involved like Reality was. People need to do research. They need to. Thank you, Brittany.
I just messaged my mom on the Zoom chat. I said, "Mom, are you crying?" And she's crying. I don't know why?
It's just, I'm just, it's hard to relive all of the experiences that we've been through in this last 2.5 years. There are days where you just go through your life and you forget that we've been through some tremendous hardships and pain through this with reality. And then I remember that she's the one that's been locked up. She's the one that has suffered the most, and it's not fair. It's just, this is just such an injustice that our government has done in this case. And I get so angry and overwhelmed knowing that the average citizen out there doesn't even know her name, doesn't know her case. And I get angry that our media will not talk about her. And my representatives will not come to her defense or even respond to me, in this. And that is just, to me, I get so overwhelmed with just emotions. So I think the attorney that is now going to be representing reality and filing the petition for clemency said it just perfectly. She said, you just have a blender of emotions, and that's exactly what it is. Just put everything in the blender, and at any moment, it's all mixed up. It's all mixed up. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of gratefulness. There's a lot of rage. There's a lot of frustration, desperation, disbelief. I wake up some days and I cannot believe that my daughter is actually in prison serving a record-breaking sentence for doing the right thing.
Well, I mean, I guess all I can say now is thank you all for being here with us tonight and for sharing reality's story, your story, and just all of the pain and heartbreak that comes with that, and just being open with us. And we're really grateful that you could do that. We wish you all the best for your family, for you as well, Wendy.
Thank you.
And just, how to find us. If there's anything at all that we could possibly do to, support your family, anything, even, whether it's just social media, whether it's just, using our Twitter accounts to amplify stuff, if there's anything going on, any updates, we're here to support reality and to support you as well. And just thank you again for being here, for sharing.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make.
You think I'm joking? Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
Laat staan dat ik kan ingaan over vuur.